close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Star Sport podcast. I'm Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. On today's show we'll be looking ahead to the Munster Football Championship with particular focus on Cork's opener against Limerick this weekend.
But first, the waiting is almost over for football fans across the country as Liverpool and Spurs go head to head in this weekend's Champions League final in Madrid. To preview the game, we're joined by West Cork's biggest Liverpool fan, Mr. Donal O'Sullivan, and West Cork's only Tottenham fan, Mr. John McCarthy. Welcome to the studio, lads.
Thanks, John.
As the only Man United fan here, I'm going to be the impartial juror, I suppose, in the kind of the rocket sense in this conversation. Worth pointing out too that Jack is a Liverpool fan as well, so jurors outnumbered 2-1 here in the studio today. But before we look closer at the final on Saturday, lads, I just want to see what defines success for you. Kind of, is it winning trophies, like putting silverware in a trophy cabinet, or is it nights like Liverpool-Barca, which you were at, Donal, or Spurs away to City or Ajax? Which is more important? Is it more important to win the game, or are the memories more important and the legacy?
Well, I suppose you play the game for success, Kieran, and like it's not the taking part. Obviously, you want to put trophies in the cabinet at the end of the day. Looking back down through the years, obviously a United fan, you've had plenty of success, but hopefully there won't be a few years of that for a few more years to come. But look, as a Liverpool fan, obviously the season is defined by a trophy at the end of the season. You know, they competed heavily for the league. It was disappointing to obviously lose out, and that they're back in the Champions League final 2 years in a row. The nights have been brilliant, the games have been brilliant, but like to come away from Madrid Saturday night now with a defeat again, it'll be bitterly disappointing. And like you can have all the memories you want, but you need to put a trophy on the table at the end of the day. So that'd be my take on it, maybe.
Yeah, and just to kind of add to that there, if you look back at Liverpool's Champions League win in 2005, the games in the lead up to that success are remembered because they won the final. Say for example, if Liverpool had lost to AC Milan, Steven Gerrard's goal wouldn't have become the iconic moment that it became. So although the moments are great, and that's what being a fan is generally all about, the moments sharing it with your friends who are also fans, but when it comes down to it, the Liverpool fans still sing we won it 5 times for a reason, because that's why you start playing football. It's to win trophies.
Just to back up that point, like the Barcelona game, 3-0 down after the first leg to win the second leg 4-0, unbelievable night, but it probably won't stand for much if Spurs turn them over Saturday night. So again, like the memories are brilliant. The Champions League nights are unbelievable at Anfield, but you got to get over the line, and I think Klopp definitely needs to get over the line. You know, he's third full season in charge now. You know, he's since he's come in, he's said 3 to 4 years. He's been unlucky. Obviously, he has a poor record in finals, but hopefully he'll turn that around Saturday night.
All right, for Spurs, Ger, what defines success for a Spurs fan?
Well, listening to all this trophy-laden talk from the three pundits opposite me, it has one of many long-suffering Spurs fans in West Cork here, and I'll have you know, I'm not the only one.
There's 3 of you.
Yeah. Yes, it's hard to argue. Look, trophies are what define success. I mean, in the modern day English football, especially over the last couple of weeks, the headlines, you look at Manchester City completing a domestic treble, and it's all negative headlines about how they've spent money. So there's a lot of question marks around English football and the money coming into it and being spent, the crazy money being spent on it. But Bill Nicholson always said, as previous Spurs manager, double winning manager, said football is all about glory. And Spurs have a brand new stadium. Spurs have a very good team. They've one of the best managers in the world, one of them, but they've no trophies. So even the most die-hard Spurs fans are delighted. Kind of like Donal said, there's been a lot of memories this year. It's been one of the most unbelievable European runs for the club, and they've had a few, but this has been the most unbelievable and unexpected one. But if it all comes a cropper in Madrid on Saturday night, I don't think it will really matter. It'll be looked back on fondly as a season. Like Jack was referring to there, you look back on seasons fondly and the highlights of them, but I'd give all that away and I'd give the last 5 years of Pochettino away just to win a trophy and playing terrible football, because if you win trophies and it becomes a habit, which is what happened at United, which is what happened has happened at Manchester City, you attract better players and the momentum continues.
Yeah.
But if you're in and out every couple of seasons, like Spurs have been, they're a top 4 club, that's the way I describe them, but they were 20 odd points off the top 2 this year, so that's where we are. So winning a trophy, however we win it, next Saturday night, if we can do it in penalties and it's a horrible, I don't care, I just want the trophy, because that then defines the previous seasons, whereas losing, it's like, well, we had a good run and off we go again next year.
I don't think the league position does Spurs justice, to be fair. You know, they were there or thereabouts, they were competing, and a lot of people said, look, when push comes to shove, they'll pencil, for want of a better word, and fall away, but they suffered a couple of defeats. But I think Pochettino decided to put all his eggs in one basket and focus on the Champions League, and it's been an unbelievable run for Spurs. Like when you see the games they've won, that City game, you know, to come out of that away, to beat them away, it was unbelievable. It was I won't say I was devastated, I was disappointed, because I was hoping that City would advance and keep them tied up another bit, but the thought of facing City in Madrid now Saturday night would probably be more daunting than Spurs, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but it's just they've had an unbelievable run, and like as George says, Pochettino is definitely up there, and I think they need a trophy soon as well to keep him, because there will be, I won't say bigger clubs, but maybe the likes of Juventus, Barcelona, they will be sniffing around him, and it's probably only a matter of time. If the club don't back him, I think he'll be out of there.
But just before we move on from success, I just want to ask George a question, just in terms then of Spurs' recent history. So you said you'd swap it all. But then just going back a small bit further, so the last trophy Spurs won was obviously the League Cup in 2007, would that be right?
Yeah, been mid-2000s definitely.
So would you consider that a successful season now for Spurs if they won a League Cup and had qualified or missed out on the Champions League as opposed to qualifying for the Champions League? I know the League Cup is kind of but just in general, it's still a major trophy.
I think it's when it comes to lifting a trophy and winning a trophy, it's the momentum, as I said, that you gain from it. We didn't gain any after that. But what has become a kind of an invisible trophy is finishing 3rd and 4th. Yeah. And in terms of money and in terms of finances, Spurs have to be in the top 4 to pay off the stadium, the magnificent new stadium that they've got.
Keep Harry Kane.
Possibly, and Christian Eriksen and Dele Alli and all these other players, because they will treble. Like, one of the things that Daniel Levy has done in the last 5 or 6 years is he has kept the wages relatively low, and successfully so. So from his point of view, unlike Manchester City, who've got the family that the Emirates and own all those billions of petrochemicals that are behind them, unlike Liverpool, who have the American money behind them, Spurs have one owner, Joe Lewis, who spends his year on a yacht somewhere in the Bahamas, and he calls the shots. And Spurs right now are ripe for takeover. New stadium, a lot of good players, in and around the top of the Premier League, make a lot of money, may not win anything. Take over, they'll make more money. But that doesn't define the soul of a football club. The soul of a football club is when you lift that trophy and then you go on and lift another one. Back when we last won the League Cup, it was great, but it didn't have the kick on that it should have had, because the investment didn't follow. So I guess it kind of goes hand in hand, if I could answer your question. If you lift one trophy, you should go and look to lift another one. But if you're never in the hunt for trophies, then all you're doing is finishing 3rd and 4th. Maybe that's all you'll ever do. And I would say that about this year, Spurs used to be known as a cup team, and I wouldn't say that we're a cup team anymore. We do play better over longer periods of time when we have all our players fit and available, but we don't have the squad, I think, or the bench that Liverpool have. We don't have the bench that Manchester City have, and that's the difference at the very, very end of it. You can get away with the Champions League every now and again. You can cause a couple of upsets, even with a lot of injuries. But over the course of what is a grueling season, just look at City and Liverpool's records. Next season, losing a game will be seen as a crisis, which is insanity. But
Liverpool lost one all season.
Yeah, and that's where we're at.
Yeah.
All right. Listen to you both there. Both Liverpool and Spurs badly want to win the Champions League on Saturday. But is it fair to say it's more important for Liverpool to win this because they're further along in their terms in progression, like Klopp's 3rd season? Like, is it more important for Liverpool to win the Champions League, given what Klopp's record is? To be fair to me, it's one win in 8 finals, I think, 1 win in 7 finals, given where he's 3 years now and with no trophy to show at the end of the season, would that be termed a failure? Even though there's been all these fantastic moments, I just feel there's more pressure on Liverpool to finish this season with something, because it's something to build on next year because they want to attract new players and they want to move to the next level, but they need to win something because Spurs, to be fair, Spurs they're not as far along as this Liverpool team. This Liverpool team is ready to take the next step, but to take the next step they need to win something. So I feel the pressure is on.
I think without a shadow of doubt that there's more pressure on Liverpool. Like when you look back last year, Champions League final, poor keeping errors cost them a game. You know, they didn't have Becker, obviously. Salah got injured. To think that they'd be back in the Champions League final again 12 months later, I didn't see it, but they're there. As you say, Klopp, he's been in 7 cup finals, last 6. The pressure is definitely on Liverpool. Like, I know Spurs, they'll want to win it as much as Liverpool will, but I think if they were to lose, they can look at it as a step and drive on again next season. Whereas with Liverpool, it'll be like 97 points, didn't win the league, Champions League twice, 2 defeats. Like, how are we going to repeat that? Like, how do you step it up again? Only do exactly what we've done this season and hopefully get over the line. But it's a tough one.
Yeah, and I think it's slightly unfair as well to label Klopp as a failure, because when you read out the stat, not you, Kieran said,
but it's 1 win in 7 finals.
It's 7 finals, and when you take into account last year's final when Loris Karius just lost his marbles in the middle of the game, threw a ball out to Benzema as Van Dijk was turned the other way, assuming the ball was going to be kicked up the field. You cannot lay that blame on the feet of your club, other than the.
Well, look, I'd agree with you, Jack. Like, he's far from a failure. Like, you talk to any Liverpool fan, like he came in October 15. You know, finished 8th in their first season, but probably luckily got to a Carling Cup final or a League Cup final. Lost to a good City team again on penalties. Got to the Europa League final. 1-0 up against Sevilla at half time, cruising, and for some reason the wheels just fell off in the second half and lost 3-1. Just so, like, that was his first half season. That was 2 cup finals. Far from it, like, it wasn't expected. He came along then. You know, he got 4th the following season. He got 4th again. So that was back in the Champions League after a couple of years out of there, and the 3rd year back with 4th Champions League final 2018. So ask any Liverpool fan, he's far from a failure. Like, what we've watched, or the fans have watched down through the years, especially since Hodgson was there. Dalglish came in interim and then he took over, and then Rodgers, as I said earlier when we were talking outside, Rodgers came in and basically was carried by Suarez and Sterling and Sturridge at the time, like, vulnerable at the back but just unbelievable attacking. So what fans are seeing now is unbelievable. Like, to get 97 points this season, lose 1 game, play the football that they've been playing and still not win the league is probably unheard of. But at the same time, they're a joy to watch, and I might be biased, but he's far from a failure. So
I loved him at Borussia Dortmund because I'm a Dortmund fan from a long way back, and I used to watch a bit more Dortmund than other people tend to watch when he was there. They played the most attractive brand of football, better than Bayern Munich, but they rarely, until towards the end, got the better of Munich, because Munich, much like Man City, more money, better players. Yeah.
And took 2 of his best players.
Yep, took 2 of his best players out, and Mats Hummels.
And Götze as well, and Lewandowski.
But I think he's at a club that will, I won't say accept failure, but that will accept the steps that he's taken in the time that he's been there to a point. Okay, to a point. There will come a point where, okay, lads, what are we doing? And it happened at Borussia Dortmund, and he ended up going. Just back to your original point, I don't disagree with you that Liverpool need to win it for the reasons that you've outlined, and you're right. But Spurs have to win it, and that's different. Because the last time we came close to winning a major trophy was when Leicester won the Premier League, and we were the closest to them for the long of it, and it was a long season and we fell short. This is a one-off. This is it. This is the best chance we'll have of winning European Cup, possibly for quite a long time again, when the rumours that I'm hearing of the players that are leaving. This is a one-shot, take on Liverpool. Doesn't really matter, with the greatest respect to this Liverpool. This is the European Cup. This is our shot.
It's a one-off game.
After 3 games in our group, we hadn't won a game. We weren't getting out of the group. I wrote a lot about them, and it took a draw against the Barcelona reserves in the final group game to get into the last 16. Dortmund were top of the Bundesliga. We'd no business taking them on over 2 legs, beat them. City, no business beating them, we found a way. And Ajax, it was done, it was dusted, it was dead, and it was just a crazy week of football anyway, much like Liverpool's come back with Barcelona, which was better. But we still found a way. And Pochettino finds a way. But can he do it on the biggest stage? Can he do it in a one-off situation? Because if we don't, we're back to that year that Leicester won the league. Well, that was your chance, Spurs, and that was your chance. And those players and agents are listening to all of this. So I think Liverpool could actually absorb a loss, as bad as it would be, and come back probably next season, I'm not so sure we could. But if we win it, if Spurs win it, the likes of Kane, Eriksen, Dele Alli, Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Lloris will all maybe think again about their long-term contracts, and all of a sudden the kind of player that you can attract and the money that you can spend is more important to Spurs.
Is there not an element though of, if Spurs were to win the Champions League final on Saturday, fingers crossed that they don't from my perspective, but is there not a chance that what you're saying, if they win they might stay, but would it not be if they win they'll feel like their job here is done, we've achieved greatness at Spurs, it can go no further.
How are we going to top this?
Pochettino might see it's a good time to go out, like when Mourinho left Porto. I know it was obviously money is the key thing for managers really.
No, there is that. But also it's a fair point.
Christian could say, I've just won a Champions League with Spurs, there's no point staying here anymore. It's either it's all down from here. And
you, like when you look at the league, like to challenge City again next year, you know, I can't see Liverpool repeating that.
Well, hang on, if Liverpool win it, right? If Liverpool, why wouldn't Mo Salah and Sadio Mane think the same thing if Madrid come with their massive checkbook this summer?
They've all signed contracts, but you'd be hoping that they'll take massive money.
Yeah, well, look, there's probably no difference realistically in the fact that Liverpool and Spurs have, in recent history, been selling clubs when their good players perform.
Luis Suarez.
They sell them. So I won't be surprised if Firmino, they're saying, is likely one to leave.
But
so it's just I'm used to Liverpool's good players.
I think there's a big difference, because to me, if they left Liverpool for Madrid at this moment in time, I think they're taking a step backwards in where that team is going. That Madrid team, it's only going one way. Similar to Barcelona, they've signed Griezmann, and he's possibly come 12 months too late for them. You know, like they're probably going to struggle a bit as well, but obviously they're going to be huge for a season or two. But to go to Madrid, to go to Juventus, I genuinely think like Liverpool, they're on the rise. They're still on the rise, and it might sound stupid to say it, but like they've been playing well over the last couple of seasons, and I can see it hopefully repeating itself for the next couple of years. If you
talks,
it does, I know. Yeah, sure. Look, the wages, but they've
gone nuts this summer.
They have tied Salah down, Firmino and Mane to long-term contracts with bigger wages.
But they signed Suarez and Sterling et al. To long-term contracts.
Yeah, but I think the Suarez one was different. I think the Suarez one was done. They knew he was on the way out, and it was like a case of, you sign, you give us another few months, and we're going to let you go.
I would just never assume any Liverpool player is likely to stay. For my entire life, it's been they play well, they're gone.
Exactly. It's almost different now, because Liverpool have reached this level now where they are one of the elite clubs in Europe. Kind of, you want players to kind of go there. Like when you consider that, like Henderson is a good player. When you have Henderson there, when you like Dejan Lovren and stuff. If Liverpool could upgrade a couple of players and they're at such a level,
it's been harsh on Henderson there. Well, possibly he's been
this is Sir Alex Ferguson speaking. You know, when he questioned his running technique. So,
but it's like, would you consider, like, that's why I think the proposition of Liverpool winning the Champions League is quite scary for United fans, but for a lot of fans, because it's a team. Liverpool, when you look at it, it's almost the sum of the parts is greater than the individuals.
And that's a top team. To the core.
If you add in a couple of more world-class players to that, playing at that sort of level, that's when it gets a lot scarier for other fans and stuff, you know, that you can really kick on. But quick look at the league games. So the 2 league games in the Premier League this year, Liverpool won them twice, but the second game at Anfield was a lot closer. Liverpool needed a late winner there. There's been very little between the teams. So looking ahead to Saturday, where are the match winners, and who are the match winners in both teams?
Well, from Spurs' point of view, definitely. I've watched them the last 5-6 weeks, all their matches, they're jaded looking. So the 3-week break is better for us. Kane is the elephant in the room, because there's talks that he's going to take cortisone injections and play. I think that's a mistake. As good as he is and as good a finish. Now, if it's going 0-0, we're into extra time and penalties are looming, which I highly doubt, because I think there's going to be loads of goals. I think, bring him on. He might be a dead ball specialist. He might do a bit of damage. But the key person, I think, is Christian Eriksen for us, because he makes us tick, and he's been playing poorly. Played very poorly against Everton, but scored a free kick and got all the headlines. But if you watch the game, he didn't play particularly well. And just on that as well, like Dele Alli is still coming back from an injury, but I guess Son Heung-min probably is the most important player on the pitch for Spurs the next night, because he's going to be the lone striker unless they play Moura up front with him. Lucas Moura, I think he'll probably play him up front on his own. He's done it before. If he's fully fit, which I think he is, he will give Liverpool trouble. Will he give him enough trouble? That remains to be seen. But I think Eriksen and, for me, Sonny probably are the 2 most important players.
Just to follow up on George's point, I hope Harry Kane does play, because I've watched him a lot this season, and when he went out injured, just after Christmas, I think they went on a run. Son was absolutely flying, and just when Kane came back into the fold, that they seemed to hit a hiccup. So for me, I hope he takes 3 cortisone injections and they start him up front in his own.
We're endorsing that.
No, like obviously, but but I suppose from a Liverpool perspective, the 3 up front, like you have to look at him. Mane has been an absolute fire the last couple of months. Salah hasn't repeated what he done last season, even though his figures are still up there. He's just, his all-round performance isn't there, but he's still liable to get you a goal. You know, like as he did with Chelsea there in the league, just out of nothing. So I do fear for Liverpool with the pace that Spurs have, like more, especially Eriksen with the passing, but Son, his movement, Dele Alli. It's going to be. I think it's going to be a cracker. As George says, there's going to be goals and plenty of them. It's
just. I think Van Dijk is probably going to be your most important. He has to keep the level that it's hard to say. Like, he's been excellent all year and deserving player of the year. But you know, people going about that thing that Sissoko broke through at Anfield late, and he made him kick it over. That was just one moment. But his consistency, if he can carry that into the Champions League final, we're going to find it very hard to break him down. But if we can drag him out of position, that's the only way you score goals against Liverpool, is when you drag them out of position. And Spurs are very good at doing that. But this is a Liverpool team that have already played in the Champions League final less than 12 months ago. They've been involved in the title race. Confidence is high. My worry is that heads in the Spurs team get turned. It's a Champions League final to build up the stadium, the whole occasion. When you're not, I know a lot of them are internationals and have played in front of big stadium or big attendances, but this is a Champions League final, and that's my big concern, that the occasion might get to 1 or 2 of them. It shouldn't, but you wouldn't blame them if it did. You know, sometimes you have to lose a final like this before you learn how to win it. And I think Liverpool have been through that process, because they should have beaten Madrid last year. They know that. So the confidence is there now, and Klopp has been brilliant man management at handling Liverpool this year, the comments and taking all the pressure off them. So they're the favourites, not because I'm Spurs fan, but they are the favourites, I think. And I think we have a chance. Spurs have a real chance in this game, but every one of them have got to play well. And the last few weeks would not fill you with confidence if you've been watching them.
Just when you talk about the Spurs players playing well, I go back to Lloris. Sure, I've watched him a couple of times this season now again. And for a renowned international keeper,
he's erratic.
He is very erratic.
Lloris sounds very similar to Karius.
Well, I hope he does a Karius. But even that game at Anfield in the league, you know, like Salah's header, bread and butter for a top class keeper, and he parried it out. Like it got Liverpool over the line in a game that they possibly should have lost. You know, so
he throws him in every now and then.
But he has saved us in other league games. There's times he saved us down in Bournemouth. Remember, he was absolutely brilliant. And you're right, there's very little consistency with him, whereas you've got a much more solid goalkeeper,
which is helped by the back four
until the ball goes to his feet sometimes. So watch it. We'll be watching for that. But you look, I really do think going into it, the kind of season it's been, and the last few weeks especially, when you see Company scoring against Leicester, when you see Liverpool coming back against Barcelona, when you see Spurs and what they did in Amsterdam, and then you see what's going on in the playoffs, which we're not going to talk about, but what's happening is just football's gone nuts.
Don't forget United's draw with Huddersfield the second last
game. Fair play. Ollie's at the wheel.
Just in terms of crucial players as well, just one I want to give a mention to, and it may sound like a bit of a hipster take, but Fabinho's performance against Barcelona in the second leg was he was a monster. And the 2 players that the lads mentioned as Spurs danger men being Lucas Moura and Son, a lot of the damage they do can be coming in from the side, but it's also those runs through the middle. And if Fabinho can play the role he played against Barcelona and just breaking that portion of the pitch up, and his distribution is good enough as well that he can set off in attack.
Fabinho's been unbelievable.
On his day,
you know, like in the games that he hasn't started, you notice the difference when he's not there. So as Jack said, it's key that he's on top of his game. And
one last point on that, you flip that over Moussa Sissoko for us.
Exactly. When he's
if he doesn't play, things go wrong. But if he does play, so you see like already the way the 2 teams are probably going to set up. It'll probably be similar in style, I would imagine, and it'll be counter-attacking. It'll be nuts, and there's going to be loads of goals.
A thought that crossed my mind actually about Moussa Sissoko when I was watching the Ajax game is when the game is played at a frantic pace, it suits him down to the ground, because the ball is just rocking everywhere, and he's running through people. When it's a kind of a
technical game,
slow game, he can stand out as maybe not belonging, but in a game which I assume it's going to be all out.
It has to be for
warfare
us.
almost.
But why do it's not a Premier League game? Could this not take on a different life of its own because it's a Champions League
I
final?
don't think it suits either team if it does. Really.
It's a one-off game. There's so
Could
much
be
on the
could
line.
cancel each other out. Yeah.
Like,
But I don't
trepidation.
think either of the teams are going to sit back. Like Liverpool don't know how to sit back. Spurs are the same. If they sit back, they'll get picked off as well. So I don't think any of the two teams. Not that they don't know how to sit back, but they won't want to sit back because their biggest strengths are going forward and attacking.
But when you know there's so much on the line for both clubs, like you said about what the future holds, and Spurs need to win and Liverpool need to win. If you go too gung ho and you look at the likes of Lucas Moura kind of for Spurs and even Firmino, Salah, Mane, if you get picked off early, would it not be the case for the first 20 minutes? Just play your cards close to your chest, sit back and just see what the others are doing.
You're right, it could, because previous European finals have been very like that. It becomes a game of chess.
Yeah.
The thing that's different this year is that the last couple of months, especially in English football, like the two best teams without the ball in English football are Liverpool and Man City. They're the best at pressing because they each have a system. Pep has a system and Klopp has a system that they brought from their previous clubs. It's not just pushing up. Pochettino has another system, but it's not that, like, they are the two best teams in the Premier League, probably in Europe, along with maybe with Barcelona and Bayern Munich, at getting the ball off it.
Yeah.
And if Spurs don't have something to counteract that, if they do have something to counteract that and they decide to sit deep, it could get very boring. It could. But because the teams, and nerves are going to play a big part in this, I think more so for Spurs, but I think that Spurs have seen that if you sit back against Liverpool, there's only one outcome. You really have to go for the juggler. You have to pick your moments. To be fair, I know what you're saying. Pick your moments, but there's so much riding on it, and there really is for the two teams involved. Whether it's just the fact that they're English doesn't really matter. It's just the fact that there's so much riding on it, in my opinion. Not just, and I would say the same for Liverpool. Obviously, I'm going to say there's more on it for Spurs from our point of view, and where we're going, where we want to go. That it could be a damn script for a while, but there's too many match winners in the final third of each pitch, and if we get an early goal, we're looking at 5-1. And I think somebody said during the week the best thing Spurs because it was giving them a 3-0 lead. And just try to come back from that.
I'd take that, yeah.
Okay, prediction time. So I want to first find out where you're going to watch the game and then who you think is going to win and why, even though this is going to get quite predictable. But start with you, Donal. Where are you watching it?
My answer definitely won't be predictable, Kieran, because as you know, I have a family engagement that evening. So I'll probably watch the highlights the day after. I have a sister-in-law getting married. So
she can't move it now.
Surely they put up a big screen inside and for the reception.
I might get you to give her a buzz there maybe because she's not answering my calls anymore, to be honest. But look, I'll hopefully try and keep abreast of it somehow. Maybe someone will shout a score from the back of the room or something. But look, it's the joys of it.
Prediction. So
look, it's an all English final. It's a one-off cup game. Like it's not even a European Cup final anymore. To me, it's just a one-off cup game. The heart says Liverpool, obviously, but my head does tend towards Liverpool as well. Just experience, probably they've been there. Like the season that they've had, the defeat last year, they're probably more all rounded. But in saying that, Spurs get a goal, who knows what happens because they have so many match winners there as well. But I'm going to say 3-1 Liverpool.
Before we go to Jar, the wedding's on in Inchydoney, isn't it?
That's it, yeah.
So anyone in Inchydoney watching this and listening to this podcast, if you could arrange a special TV for Donal for the wedding this Saturday, it'd be very much appreciated.
And I'll buy plenty of drinks for you.
Jar?
I'm actually going to be probably working for another publication on the night in question, so maybe this isn't the podcast to talk about that, but I will be watching it at home like I was all the different rounds as well, and just writing about Spurs and trying to make sense of it. I think if I was, and I do this quite a lot, if you're a Spurs fan you have no choice, you take your heart out of it for a while and you cold-bloodedly look at it. Liverpool should win it. They should win it, if I'm being honest. But every time I doubted Spurs, even when I doubted them halfway through the Champions League and threw it away, they found a way. Even against all the other rounds that we spoke about earlier, they found a way. And what's different with this Spurs team compared to other ones is there's the self-belief injected by their manager that why shouldn't we win? Why shouldn't we have a go? A lot of players may well be leaving at the end of it, yes, that's a fair point, but a lot of them might decide to stay if we win it too, because you might get another crack off it, and plus you're going to get a huge bonus, and if money talks like it does, it's better contracts, and all of a sudden the club will it changes everything. I hope Spurs win it. I think they can win it, because if Liverpool don't play to their optimum, if Liverpool don't, especially in midfield, if Liverpool don't close Spurs down. We got enough chances at Anfield, I think, to at least win that game. Anyone that saw it. We played badly in the previous game, but we really could have won that game at Anfield.
We should have won it. Yeah.
That gives me hope. But hope can kill you if you're watching Spurs this season.
Or if you're a Liverpool fan, hope can kill you.
So I'm actually not looking forward to it. I'm being genuine now. I mean, I've been working for it, but I'm not looking forward to it because it's been it's the last minute of all the games where things have happened. 2-1 after extra time. Spurs.
Jack, I know where this is going to go. Call it.
Well, I'll be watching it at home in Kilkenny with my father, who's actually from the greater Liverpool area, but he is an Everton fan. So his greatest disappointment was raising a Liverpool fan.
Was his son.
But I watched the 2005 final with him in his house in Kilkenny, and I watched last year's final in London when I was living over there, and that didn't go to plan. So hopefully the home nest will provide some good luck charms, and I think Liverpool are going to win by the odd goal. I won't give a score prediction, and I think the goal is going to come, the bold prediction is going to come from a chronic error from Hugo Lloris. And I think he may shed a tear on the field and retire, and he'll look back on that time when he got caught for drink driving and say, what was I thinking? My career has gone downhill since then. And Liverpool will lift the cup. We won it 6 times, and that is my prediction.
I'm going to be at the only game that matters on Saturday evening. It's Cork Limerick in Park Ring in the semi-final of the Munster Senior Football Championship. But I'm going to level it up here. I think Spurs are going to win on Saturday. I just have that feeling because Dele Alli just keeps popping into my head, and we haven't mentioned him too much. He's a class act, and even how he set up Lucas Moura's goal, the late goal against Ajax. There's something about him. I think everything is stacked in Liverpool's favour, but I just have a feeling that Spurs could cause a shock. But Spurs need to score first. If Liverpool score first, it'll be 3-0. But if Spurs score first, I think they're strong enough at the back, Lloris apart. No,
don't get me wrong. I thought Lloris was possibly the best goalkeeper in the world until about 2 seasons ago. I had him ahead of De Gea. But just since that drink driving incident, he seems to have lost a bit of his bottle or something. So I still think he's world class.
No pun intended. No pun intended.
So I think you've spoken.
Didn't even mean it.
So the 2 Liverpool fans have gone for Liverpool. A Spurs fan has gone for Spurs, and unsurprisingly, a Man United fan has gone for Spurs. So anyway, thanks for listening. Best luck to all teams on Saturday, and may the best team win.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast. And now, before we preview Cork's game with Limerick in the Munster Championship on Saturday, Kieran, there's a developing story ongoing which sort of came to a head last night involving the West Cork ladies football team and their involvement in the championship this season. Can you maybe enlighten us a bit on this story and give us your thoughts on it?
This has been bubbling under the surface for the last couple of weeks. So basically, the West Cork ladies senior football team is a senior football team, so they compete in the Cork Ladies Senior Football Championship. But a number of senior clubs, 5 in total, sent a letter in to the Cork Ladies Board asking the board to look at how West Cork are allowed to compete in this championship, because the West Cork, it's a divisional team, so they're pulling from a large number of junior and intermediate clubs. So over the last few weeks, there were fears that the West Cork ladies football team would be wound up, which would be a huge shame. So it kind of came to a head last night. There was a meeting up in the Rochestown Park Hotel when good news broke through that the West Cork ladies team will be allowed to continue. The Cork Ladies Football Board backed that as well. They want to see the team continue, and it's a great development, Jack. Like I said, this West Cork team has been around for the last 3 years. What it's done for ladies football in West Cork is phenomenal. It gives players from junior and intermediate clubs a chance to play in the County Senior Championship, which aids their development. The likes of Melissa Duggan from Donal, he's kind of in the first year of the West Cork ladies team. She was a real star in that team, and off the back of that, she was called into the Cork panel. She's been there the last 2 years, and she's a definite all-star, if not this season, in the next couple of seasons. So what the other clubs were frightened was, or worried about probably, is they say that the West Cork ladies team will be too strong because they're pulling from all these different clubs. And to be fair, like, the West Cork team has Martina O'Brien in goal, the Cork goalkeeper, Anya Terry O'Sullivan, Niamh Cotter and Claire O'Shea from Beara. From Bantry this year, they'll have Emma Spillane, they'll have Laura O'Mahony from O'Donovan Rossa, they'll have Emer and Dara Kiley from Valley Rovers, they'll have Melissa Duggan from Donny's. I probably missed a couple there, but that's 7 or 8 kind of Cork standard players who are on the West Cork team. But it's important to know too, as good as West Cork have been, they haven't won the County Senior Championship. Mourneabbey are still the best team in the county. Mourneabbey have added Noel Healy to their ranks this year. Mourneabbey are the reigning All-Ireland champions, and I go so far to say is that West Cork are what this championship needs, because they've helped Mourneabbey to raise their standards, and it's only a good thing, I think, when you've better teams in there, it raises the standards of everyone. If West Cork weren't there this year, Jack, Mourneabbey would be overwhelming favourites to win again.
And is it indefinite now that the West Cork ladies will compete in the championship, or what was the compromise that they came to last night? Is this going to be a rolling inclusion in the championship? Will they also be there next season?
I hope so. There is a rule. There's Rule 188 of in the LGFA, the Ladies Gaelic Football Association, which deals with how I suppose boards can pick divisional teams, as in what picks divisional teams can have, how many intermediate and junior clubs that they can choose from. But my understanding is that's more a guideline than a rule, so it's up to the different county boards to kind of interpret that rule whichever way they want. And the Cork Ladies Football Board is in favour of having the West Cork Ladies Football team involved. And again, it's just a positive for Cork football in general, because there's so many good talented footballers down here in West Cork at the moment. And what this senior team does, it gives even the underage girls, kind of from under 14, under 16 and minor, it gives them something to aim for, and it gives local footballers here in West Cork exposure to what senior club football is like. That will only help them develop and get better. It will help their clubs when they go back to their clubs. It's a win-win situation, because then the Cork teams benefit off the back of that. Even the Cork under 14 team this year, the ladies football team, I think there's 11 players from West Cork involved. So it shows that West Cork really is a hotbed for ladies footballers at the moment. So it's fantastic news, and I'm delighted that the West Cork ladies team are here to stay.
Okay, well, we'll continue to follow that story throughout the year. Now, on Saturday night at around the same time, the Champions League final kicks off in Madrid. Some eyes will be on Páirc Uí Rinn as Cork take on surprise package Limerick in the opening round, or not the opening round, in the Cork's opening fixture in the Munster Football Championship. In a few minutes we'll hear from Cork footballer Kevin Flahive, who spoke to Dennis Hurley. But Kieran, first, your thoughts on the game. Are we looking at a potential banana skin for Ronan McCarthy's side?
First off, Jack, why have the GAA put this game up against a Champions League final? Jesus Christ, I'm not a Liverpool fan, but to have a Champions League final at 8 o'clock and then to have the two Munster semi-finals around at 7 o'clock. You've Cork and Limerick, obviously in Páirc Uí Rinn at 7, and there's Kerry and Clare, I think it's Cusack Park, at 7. Jesus, could they not move the games forward to 5 or 6, kind of... It really smacks of old school GAA.
Even half an hour, 6:30.
That's exactly, kind of like...
You'll be out in time to watch it in a pub or get home.
It is, because to be fair, Liverpool are a hugely supported team, especially here in Cork. And even on the Cork football panel, Brian Hurley, Paul Kerrigan, Thomas Clancy, Kevin Flahive, they're all Liverpool fans. I know that's not enough of a reason to move a game forward, but sometimes with the GAA you just love a bit of common sense and push the game forward by an hour, started at 6, everyone's out the gate, and just go watch a Champions League final, which is a big spectacle. But
and it's not as though the Cork footballers are the most passionately followed side in Gaelic football, especially within their own county compared to the hurlers. Mm-hmm. So it's going to even knock off some serious numbers on the amount of casual sports fans who'd walk up to Páirc Uí Rinn on the night of the game generally.
That's exactly it, those kind of sunny day observers who might pop along, they probably won't be there. But like I said earlier, Jack, is it a potential banana skin for Cork? At the moment, every game is a potential banana skin for Cork, and I don't say that trying to be smart. Obviously, Cork were relegated to Division 3 of the National Football League. It was another poor league campaign. They're going in now against a Limerick team that went to Thurles and beat Tipperary by 7 points. That was Limerick's first championship win since 2012. So Limerick will come down here high in confidence. And I was chatting to their manager, Billy Lee, for this week's Southern Star, and I was kind of putting it to Billy that Limerick are in a no-lose situation here because nobody's expecting them to win. So if they win, massive shock and massive congrats again. But if they lose, Cork were always expected to win. It's Cork who are in the no-win situation here. You still would think that Cork should have too much for Limerick. There's rumours of this challenge game against Dublin that are doing the rounds that Cork beat Dublin in a challenge game a couple of weeks back.
Dangerous rumour.
I wouldn't really hang my hopes on a rumour like that. But the Cork footballers should be better than what the results have shown in the last 2 years. They did finish the league quite strongly. They got that win up in Armagh, and they had a win against Tip as well in there. So they're kind of... It was a strong enough finish to the league, even though they were relegated. But Cork should win. Hopefully they will win. But then you're looking at a Kerry-Cork Munster final, and I don't need to remind Cork fans what happened when they met in last year's. That was an absolute spanking. So I think we'll take it one game at a time. So all eyes are on Páirc Uí Rinn Saturday night, 7 o'clock.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, at the press day for Saturday's game, Dennis Hurley caught up, and now I've already butchered this player's name in my intro. So I'm going to let you tee us up for this one. Who did Dennis Hurley speak to for the press event?
He was speaking to Kevin Flahive. I probably pronounced it wrong too as well. No, kind of. But Denise Hurley was talking to Kevin Flahive.
How have the preparations been since the end of the league?
Yeah, look, obviously we parked the league where it was. We obviously weren't delighted with the way it went. Look, we were happy with our last 3 performances, and main thing was we wanted to perform. We built on that. We had a good few challenge games, so we obviously went into them and we did well, and the training's going well. Training hard. We had a very good block. It's almost like a second pre-season almost when you come back from the league, when you come back from the club. But look, we've it all under our belt now, and we're very happy with how it has went so far.
What was it good to be able to go back to the club and just kind of clear the head a bit and just recharge and then refocus when you do join together again with the county panel? Definitely.
Look, I always love coming back to the club. I feel it's unfortunate that we can't play enough games with them, but that's just kind of how the way it is, and that's what it takes. So we went back, and obviously, look, fellas from won the championship. We won our 2 fellas kicking 6 points in championship games for Duhallow and crowds like this. So like when they come back into training, then they're off a fresh bit of form, which is fantastic. And again, you kind of get a break from the whole setup, and you go out playing with different players and stuff, and fellas can come back, and we came back, and it worked well for us, I feel, because everyone came back enthusiastic and ready to go at it again,
And was there any kind of debriefing or team meeting or anything after the league to look at what went wrong and why it went wrong and how it can be avoided?
Yeah, look, we have briefings after most games, and we really do go through them, and we look at our own mistakes mostly, and then we obviously look at the next thing to go. So we had a brief after every game, and look, halfway through we kind of said, look lads, it's not going well, and we really had a look at it. And if you look at the Tip game, the Donegal game, and the Armagh game, they were significantly better, and we did do that. And look, we had a briefing after, obviously, as every team would, and the main thing was, look, we did go down and we had to park that, that's next year's problem, and no one has even mentioned that at this stage. It's literally all guns towards the championship, and that's what was said in the meeting. There was obviously potential there, and I've played with a lot of teams between Sigerson and all that, and there is potential here, and that's the hope that we're going to drive on now and show that in the championship.
You mentioned getting to the league, was there some consolation at least to take from the fact that you went to Armagh and you had to win to keep alive your chances, and but for the result in the Clare Tip game, you might have actually stayed up, that you needed to get the win, and you did.
Yeah, look, that was it, and that was it. There was no two ways about it. If we didn't win, we were going down, and look, all Ronan said was, look, this is what's in our hands, so we win here, and if it doesn't go our way, it doesn't go our way. There was nothing we could do in that day about it, unfortunately, so we did. We went out and we won, and to be honest, it was a great game, and they definitely put it up. Armagh are a decent side, and we got enough of it up there. They're a great strong team. So look, we were delighted to get the win up there, and that's what you have to build off. Obviously the results weren't great, but for us it was the performance, and look, to be honest, if we go out and we have a great championship, that'll be a lot better,
and you'll be going against Limerick as strong favourites, but Tip were going in against them as well, so it's probably a good thing that they've kind of shown their hand almost in putting up that good result, so you won't be taken for granted.
Look, to be honest with you, we played them earlier on in the year. I think it was the McGrath Cup, and look, we played them, and they were a huge physical team, to be honest with you, and we came in at half time, and they really shocked us how physical they were, how strong, fit They were and very well trained and a very good free taker and big midfield. Like, they're a very strong team, you know. So obviously they run at you, they can hurt you big time. And look, to be honest with you, if we went out and played Tip and beat them by 7 points, we'd be absolutely over the moon. That's what Limerick did. So look, we're not taking them lightly at all. And despite if we were playing them first round, we were lucky enough to play them earlier on in the year. So look, we're not taking any chances, or we're not writing out. We don't read into this favourites or not favourites, because it's a game of football at the end of the day. You know, everyone's fit, everyone's strong, everyone's conditioned, everyone has their tactics, and 1 or 2 breaks of the ball could go anyway. So we just really have to outwork them and really want it more to go through to the Munster final.
And for yourself, how do you think you compare as a player now to when you first came onto the panel?
Jeez, it was a few years ago. I kind of only broke on, I suppose, last year, but definitely it's just experience. Unfortunately, I'm playing inside in the corner sometimes, so it's tough because you can get a rude awakening fairly quick. Your 100 county forward can turn you fairly handy. But to be honest, like, you learn from the older fellas like James Lockery and a few of those lads coming through. Like, and it's great to be training with them each week because you can see kind of the things. And obviously, I feel in the full back line it's also about just a bit of experience. I think you just get that as you come along, and a bit of naivety from playing underage. It is a big step up, you know. Even the ball coming in, you can't overcommit or all this type of stuff. So hopefully, I'd like to think I'm developing and getting better as a player, and hopefully I continue that for the next couple of years.
And would you have a preference maybe to be free further out the field into the half-back line?
To be honest, I'm happy with the job I'm given, you know. I probably be a natural half-back, but like, I'm inside in the corner, and most of the time I'm given a job to do, and I'm delighted to be on the team and I'm going to be playing. It's a team game, and like, obviously our wing-backs Storm, they're doing fantastic. Matty Taylor and like Kevin Crowley before I got injured was unfortunate, but Liam O'Donovan's and now they're fantastic players, you know, and I'm delighted obviously to be playing, and that I have the faith that my manager has faith in me to be playing. So look, I'm happy to be contributing to the team, and to be honest, at the end of the day, if we can hopefully get over Limerick and get over Clare, carry in the Munster final and try win the Munster, be delighted, and hopefully drive on from there, you know.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast. And Kieran, I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty good sports section this week, especially considering what went on at Wembley on Monday.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic occasion for Bandon's Conor Hourihane. We now have our first ever West Cork Premier League footballer, so huge congrats to Conor for that. Conor started in midfield and he played the whole game as Aston Villa beat Derby County 2-1 in the Championship playoff final. So that means Villa and Conor are heading to the Premier League next season, which is great news. It's like Conor, it was his 4th time playing at Wembley and he's won 3 times now. That's the 2nd time he's won promotion there, so it's fantastic. And it's at the moment he's kind of surfing on a real crest of a wave. Obviously a couple of weeks ago for Ireland, man of the match against Gibraltar, scored a winning goal against Georgia in the Euro 2020 qualifiers, scored a goal in the playoff win against, was that against again, Jack?
In the playoff win?
Playoff semi-final he got
against
West Brom. That was it, West Brom, sir. Or the Baggies. And he scored a penalty too when it went extra time in the second leg. So Conor's on, like I said, on a real crest of a wave, and it's fantastic to see a local fella go all the way to the Premier League. Huge summer ahead for him, you know. Kind of, he's Ireland friendlies now, not friendlies, sorry, Ireland qualifiers again the week after next. Obviously Conor features very, very prominently in this week's Southern Star Sports section, which again, Jack, is a really good read. I have to say, and I'm not being biased, but I do mentally rate the Star sections in my head, and I'm really, really happy with this week's Southern Star Sports. Not that that counts for much, but I think it's a really good one. We've a 2-page interview with Thomas Clancy, the Cork footballer from Clonakilty, and he's an interesting story. Thomas is 27 years of age, and he really should be at the peak of his powers now. He was part of the Cork team that reached the Minor All-Ireland in 2010. But Thomas has only ever played 9 championship games for Cork, and 8 of those came in 2013 and 2014. He's been hampered and riddled by injuries, and it's such a shame that a fella who could be a powerhouse of the Cork defence, who can play full-back and centre-back, has been kind of hampered by injuries so much. So it's a big 2-page spread with Thomas Clancy, and it's well worth to read, and I'd say it's essential reading ahead of Cork and Limerick on on Saturday night. Munster Cork Camogie, surfing the crest of a wave again, to use that phrase for the third time.
We'll need to get a thesaurus in this studio so we can start expanding our spoken vocabulary.
We keep tripping over the same words, but the Cork Senior Camogie team won the Munster Senior Camogie final, beating Tip last weekend. The Cork Junior team won the Munster Camogie final last weekend, and that follows on from the Cork Intermediate team winning the previous weekend. So Cork have completed a clean sweep in Munster Camogie. It's almost like a tongue twister. As well as that, the Cork ladies beat Waterford in the first round of the Munster ladies football. We've interviewed Richie Holland from Bandon Soccer Club after a fantastic season for them. Forgot to mention, and I'll finish with this one, Jack, Dara McElhinney. He is the 18-year-old Glengarriff athlete who runs with Bantry Athletic Club. He's a real prospect. And last Saturday night in Belgium, he became the first Irish teenager to ever run under 14 minutes for the 5,000 metres. He set a new PB, and he knocked 17 seconds off his old PB. For readers of the Southern Star, Dara's been prominent for years and years. He's a former West Cork Youth Sports Star Award winner. He's a terrific talent, and he's only 18, and he's banging out national records to beat the band. He's his leaving cert coming up in Bantry there next week, so best of luck there.
Now into all that.
So no, fantastic. So I had a chat with Dara this week just to look back on a race he described as close to perfection as you can get. It's fantastic. He's a young fella we'll be hearing a lot more about in the future. So congrats Dara, congrats Conor, congrats the Cork Camogie team, congrats everyone. Great weekend for West Cork sport. So hopefully now the Cork footballers, will do the job this weekend and we'll have a good bank holiday weekend.
Yeah, hopefully everything goes to plan. Now before we wrap up today, Kieran, last week you obviously were ranting and raving about various different things, but you seem in better form today. I don't know why that is. I suppose because
the sun brings the best out of me.
The Sun and Conor Hourihane leading Aston Villa to promotion filled the paper itself essentially this week. But I want to get your thoughts on the local and European elections. Were you following any of the coverage across any of the papers? Say for example this actually wasn't related to the elections, but an interview given by a sitting TD on Today with Sean O'Rourke yesterday afternoon. Maria Bailey, did you follow any of that? Because there was some sports references in it I'd like to get your thoughts on.
I don't think she's too happy with her 10k time is what I took from it, so that was probably disappointing from her point of view. She's ran faster times before, but like anyone who knows, like if you've had a fall, if you fell off a swing or just fell, it can hamper you when you're running. There was only a couple of weeks between her unfortunate accident and her 10k run, so I followed it. I don't want to say too much, except that it was a PR disaster. I think that radio interview if it couldn't have gone any worse if she tried.
Literally couldn't have.
It literally couldn't have. It was car crash from the first moment.
My favourite part was when Sean O'Rourke kind of teed her up at the start, and her way of she was trying to get. I'm going to use the phrase already. She was trying to get the audience on side, but the reference she used was, she said, "Sean, I was raised on the side of a GAA field. Mm-hmm. I don't play offside." Now, first of all, people who are on the side of the field can't be done for offside in football anyway. Also, there is no offside in GAA hurling or football. So within 10 seconds, she had already outed herself as a giant phony, essentially, and it was all downhill from there.
It was. It was just her preparation kind of left a lot to be desired. I think,
a lot
to be desired.
Can you maybe try put it into context from a personal experience? Have you ever
fallen off a swing?
Fallen off a swing. We've all fallen off swings, but in terms of the actual interview, have you ever found yourself in a position where you are just completely bluffing and lying through your teeth, and you basically get found out?
See, I'm usually the person asking the question, so I'm usually safe from that, but I've had a couple of dodgy interviews over the years, I have to say. There's been a couple of interviews where the dictaphone has failed me, and that's absolute nightmare stuff. You go back after to listen to your interview and there's nothing there. Absolutely nothing there. So they've been disasters. Have I bluffed my way through interviews? I probably have in my early days, but as the older I get, the more experienced I get, Jack. So I think I can talk myself out of most situations. But
I once interviewed racehorse trainer and former England international Mick Shannon. I don't know if you're aware of him. He was like an England player in the 70s and 80s, played for Leeds, possibly played for Manchester United, if I'm not mistaken. But I was going up, a young, aspiring, budding racing journalist. I hadn't a notion that he had played soccer at any level. I only knew him from his racing training, and found out pretty lively when there was FA Cup medals, and I said, "Who owns these?" He said, "They're mine." It was pretty embarrassing, because when you're a young journalist, you like to give off the impression that you know everything about the subject, even though it's impossible to know everything about anyone.
It was years ago when I worked in Kerry in a previous life, and then Ireland manager Steve Staunton actually visited Killarney with a FAI trip, and I remember interviewing him, and there was a fella from Beaufort at the time, which was just outside Killarney, called Brendan Maloney, who was playing, I think, with Notts Forest. And I remember asking Steve Staunton about Brendan to see was he on the radar at the time or something, and he bluffed his way, because he'd obviously, not saying he hadn't heard of him, but it looked like he hadn't heard of Brendan Maloney and stuff. So I had 2 or 3 minutes of the biggest waffle that you could imagine, but it was an answer. There was an answer there.
And he gave you some copy to put in the paper that week.
Yeah, paper never refuses ink. You know, there was some copy there. I was able to make some sort of a headline out of it. But sometimes I do feel for the person on the other end of the receiving end of the questions, when you know you've asked them something and you can see the look on their face. They're like, "Oh no,
why are you asking me this?
Why are you asking me? Please stop."
But I would suggest that if it's not in a live interview situation, if it's for a print or even to be shown later as live, I'd always try and make them feel comfortable and say, "Look, if you don't know an answer, don't bother trying to bluff. We'll just work through it together." What's the point? Obviously, if it's live television, there's nothing you can do about that.
Remember Dominic Casey too, before you finish up, and Dominic Casey from Skibbereen Rowing Club, he's going to kill me for saying this, but he's come a lot better now in interviews, to be fair. Like, anyone who knows Dominic knows he's media shy. He doesn't like partaking in interviews, but at the start, when I started in the Southern Star, I used to check in with Dominic and kind of get updates off him, and at the end of every phone conversation he'd say, "No, don't use any of that, Kieran." so but in fairness to him now, Dominic's a lot better now, so I apologise for bringing that up, Dominic, but that was one of my initiation into West Cork when I first landed. It was interviews that weren't interviews. I thought they were interviews. I was asking questions, he was answering them, but then he used to finish and say, "Well, don't use any of that." So that was that. But anyway, thanks for listening again to the Star Sport podcast. We'll be back at the same time next week. So if you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher or wherever else you listen to the show.